Hi everyone. It's great to see you again. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. Today, we have a brand new story to share with you. So, let's get started. It wasn't during a fight. There was no yelling or accusing going on in the room. It was quiet instead. It's too quiet. That kind of quiet that lets you know something bad is about to happen. We were in the kitchen. She was washing a plate by the sink while keeping her voice cool and steady. "You're not my real match, we're just co-parents." I wish I could say I didn't hear her or that the words didn't hit me right away. But I could hear them well. There was no way to get the wrong idea from her tone, there was no sign of sorrow or doubt. It wasn't a fit of extreme passion. It was a sentence. An answer. One she pretty much had written down before she said it out loud. I stood there for a second and stared at the back of her head while she washed the plate, as if she had just told me the weather. Her voice didn't sound angry or sad. Just, apartment. It was hard for me to swallow, but my throat felt dry. "That's how you see me then?" It sounded like someone else was speaking in my voice. She didn't turn around. "We both know that this marriage isn't real anymore." It was there again. This tone of calmness and truth. As if she were talking about a deal between both of them. But it wasn't a two-way street. I hadn't even agreed with this, let alone accepted it. As I stepped closer, I put my hands on the edge of the counter. "When did you make up your mind?" She finally turned to face me this time, drying her hands with a towel while her face was blank. "It has been clear, right? We're just good parents. We should connect more often. We don't push or encourage each other. I believe we both deserve more than this agreement." Her words were so final that they felt like a weight on my stomach. The worst part? She really believed what she said. She had convinced herself that this was the only thing that made sense. That everything we had built over the years had been boiled down to a parenting relationship that worked. I took a slow breath and held on to the counter. "That's it, right? Do you see me that way? Only the father of your kids and no one else?" She shrugged again and again. "I don't wish to hurt you, but I also don't want to act like I do. Make up." It hit me harder than I thought it would. We had so many good times together, late-night talks, trips, and quiet mornings drinking coffee together. Had they all been a show for her? She had been going through the motions, waiting for the right time to tell me I was just a duty in her life. I wanted to fight with her and show her how wrong she was. But something stopped me. It could have been the way she stood there, sure of herself. It could have been the way she spoke, like they were just chatting about something unimportant. It didn't look like she felt bad about what she did or that it had cost her anything. I wouldn't let her see how deep the knife had gone, even though the air in the room felt heavy and pressed down on me. I finally said, "Good to know," keeping my voice steady. "We're being honest now, at least." Her face lit up with something. Maybe a surprise. It was like she was ready for pushback, a desperate plea to change her mind. That was not going to happen, though. With a change in my mind, I left the kitchen having turned around. I would make sure she felt the same way about me if this is how she saw me. Even though I didn't look back as I left the kitchen, my mind wasn't still. I couldn't get her words out of my head, they were stuck there like a broken record. "You're just a co-parent to me." She hadn't just realized that at that very moment. No, she had been thinking about this for a long time, maybe months or even years. I realized this wasn't a sudden realization for her the more I thought about it. It was the first time she had chosen to say it out loud. That made me wonder how long I had not seen it. I didn't sleep very well that night. As I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling, I went over every conversation we had over the last few years, trying to figure out what should have told me something. It was easy to see that they were there. I remembered how she was before. The way her face would light up when I walked in. She would text me at odd times during the day. Small stuff. Inside jokes. Things that made her laugh. She heard songs that made her think of me. That stopped at some point. I couldn't even remember the last time she had reached out first. But when did I become someone she only talked to when she had to? She also touched me differently than she used to. It was barely there, but I could now see it. There was warmth before. A hand on my arm by chance. Someone was putting their knee on mine under the dinner table. Kisses that were more than just normal. Recently? Nothing. Her hugs were more like habits than signs of love. When she kissed me, it was just muscle memory how she did it. When was the last time she looked at me with any kind of admiration? Any kind of want? You know, I thought about the talks we'd had or perhaps not had. She used to really ask me about my day. She was not just being nice like everyone else, but in a way that made me think she really cared. That had stopped at some point too. She asked again, but this time it was different. Forced. Not full. And whenever I tried to tell her about exciting things I was interested in, she would just nod along, waiting for me to finish instead of participating. And then there were times when I caught her smiling in a real, natural way. These days, those smiles weren't for me. They weren't for the man she had promised to love, but for her friends and people she met at work. Had I already seen all of this? Yes. But I didn't pay attention. I told myself that she was just busy, tired, and stressed. There were reasons I gave for why the woman I married felt so far away. Because the other option, which was to accept that she no longer felt the same way about me, was too painful. But I could no longer ignore it. It all fell into place. She wasn't no longer in love overnight. She had stopped thinking of me as important outside of our kids. I wasn't a partner, I was just something she needed in order to live. What's the truth? She had shown it to me for a long time. It was just that I didn't want to see it. There would be no difference between us if she saw me as just another mom. Not anything else. Not even that. Just don't argue. No pleas from the heart. They didn't try to fix something that was obviously broken. I wouldn't waste time trying to prove my worth to someone who already thought I wasn't important. I got up before she did that morning. I didn't say much while I got the kids ready for the day, made them breakfast, and packed their lunches. The woman came downstairs still in her robe. She quickly looked at me and then made herself a coffee. Most of the time, I'd at least try to talk to them. Find out how well she slept. Talk about the next day. I didn't bother this time. She saw that I didn't even address her. At first, it was quiet. She looked at me a few times as if she was waiting for something. She might have thought I was mad that I was thinking about nothing. I wasn't, though. I was done. Like any other day, I dropped the kids off at school and went about my business, but I had a different attitude about everything. I was no longer her husband. She didn't want me to be that way. I was one of her parents. That's it. I already had the kids' homework done when she got home from work that night. When she walked in, she threw her bag on the chair and sighed as if she thought I would ask her about her day. I didn't. I went to my office and told the kids to call me if they needed me. Then I left the room. She looked like she was waiting for me to say something for a second. I didn't, though. That was the start of it. Start talks again, but only if they are about the kids. No more calls to check in during the day. Don't make any more small talk. No more help. I had given her everything for years. Pay attention. Work. Take care. While she slowly pulled away. She would now understand what it was like to be on the other side. When is dinner? Everything is about the kids. I talked to them, listened to them, and laughed with them. Not her. When she talked to me directly, I was polite, but I didn't say anything else. The weekend? I planned things on my own. It was fine for her to want to do something with her family. I wouldn't suggest it, though. I would no longer try to get her attention. She didn't do much at first. She might have thought I was just getting used to the new situation. She may have thought I was still thinking about what she said. She then began to notice the change. It was the way I looked at her differently than before. I didn't do what I always did to make her life easy. I didn't ask her what she thought or try to find her. She thought that her side would be indifferent. She had mentally checked out of our marriage for so long that she thought she was in charge. She was the one who felt it now. It seemed like she didn't care at first. She might have even believed she had one. She did say that this was what she wanted, after all. A clear, no-strings-attached co-parenting relationship that only serves its purpose. That's what I gave her. No small talk, and I wasn't interested in her life besides the parts that had to do with the kids. I didn't ask her how her day was. I did not check to see if she needed anything while I was gone. I missed the fact that she got a haircut. I also didn't tell her how nice she looked when she thought about it. I stopped being useful. Saturday was the first day she really noticed. In the past, the weekends were when my family and I did easy things together. Go to the store, take the kids to the park, or watch a movie at home. But I had other plans this time. I took the kids outside early in the morning without telling her. I was already gone when she came down. She texted me to find out where we were. I didn't answer for almost an hour until I said, "Out with the kids. Have a good time." No reason given. Not sorry. There was no invite for her to come with us. She wasn't really looking at her phone when we got home in the afternoon. She was sitting on the couch and scrolling through it. As soon as we walked in, she looked at me right away. "Where did you go?" she asked in a relaxed tone. But the question told me everything I needed to know. I put the car keys down and said, "Let's go." The kids asked to go do something, so we did. She pressed her lips together and gave a slow nod. It would have been nice to know. It didn't bother me, so I shrugged. That was the first crack. A few days later, the second one happened at dinner. The kids were laughing and telling me all about their school friends as they talked about their day. I paid full attention, asked them questions, and joked with them. Even though she was sitting there, I didn't notice her. At one point, she tried to add something about something one of them said, but I didn't answer. Not in a rude way. Just like she had for months or even years. It was like her words didn't mean anything. She looked out of sorts for the first time in a long time. After that, she started to test me. To see if I would bite, she would bring up work stuff. I didn't. She tried to talk about a funny thing that had happened to her that day. I agreed, but I didn't ask for more information. Then, one night, she looked angry when she got home. I was reading in the living room when she stood there for a moment, as if she was waiting for me to notice her. She finally told him, "You've been acting strange." I raised an eye. How strange? It looked like she wasn't sure what to say because she paused. Not sure, just different. I put my book down. I believe this is what you need. She opened her eyes. What? I told her, "You said we're just co-parents," and I kept my tone bland. To do that, I'm going. Raising kids. What does it matter what else is going on? She looked at me and seemed uncertain for the first time since this began. She looked like she was going to say something, but she didn't. It was enough for me to know for sure. She wasn't ready for this. She thought I would beg her to love me, hold on, and keep trying. She had hoped to be in charge. I gave her exactly what she asked for instead. She was the one who didn't know what to do next. Something changed after that night. She began to pay more attention. Looking at me. I'm listening more. Reading my quiet to figure out what I mean. She didn't know what to say at first. The little things made it clear. The pause she took before saying. The way she looked at me like she was going to say something but didn't. It was her plan for me to break. Not to follow the plan I had made. I didn't, though. I kept going as I had been instead. Pay attention to the kids. Separate from her. She was missing in the same way she had been for a long time. And it was making her crazy. She tried, but it wasn't clear that she was trying. At first, it was small. At night, she asked if she could go to the store and get something for me. I told her I had already done it. She said something about a show we used to watch together another night. Like they were seeing if I'd bite the bullet and start talking. I didn't. After that, she was more frank. I was cleaning up in the kitchen one night after the kids were asleep. She came in, leaned against the counter, and looked at me. "Do you really not care?" she asked. I turned to face her after putting the last dish on the rack. "What is it about?" She let out a sigh of anger. "About any of this. About us." I looked at her for a second and then shrugged. "We don't exist." Her jaw got tight. "That's it, right? Are you okay with the way things are?" I used a towel to dry my hands and looked into her eyes. "No, but I'm okay with it. It's clear how you see me now. I am also doing the same thing." She took a quick glance away, then turned her attention back to me. "I didn't mean that when I said that." I almost laughed. "Isn't it?" She pursed her lips as if she were going to argue. But she couldn't. She knew. She knew that she was the one who killed ourselves. She had been sure for a long time that I was just there. Just being there. It didn't really matter what part one played in her life. She was starting to understand what that really meant now that I had stopped trying and mentally pulled away. She thought I would chase her. To fight for a spot in her life that she had already left empty. But when I wasn't around, she was the one who felt the space. I really didn't have anything else to give. She took everything I had without me even realizing it for a long time. Now that I stopped putting so much into a relationship that wasn't real anymore, she was the one who was empty. I put down my phone and walked right by her without saying anything. She found herself by herself for the first time. She was eager to talk. That much was clear. I was stuck because I didn't have anything else to say. There were signs for weeks. The different way she looked at me. The pause she took before saying. She thought about everything twice. This was a new side of me for her. The guy who didn't go after her. The man who didn't need her anymore. I didn't want to wait any longer for her to figure things out. I sat down next to her at the kitchen table one night after the kids were asleep. I did not need a big beginning. No speeches full of feeling. Just to be clear. I said, "Let's talk." She was shocked when she looked up from her phone. Perhaps even positive. "Yes, I do want to split up." I was hoping for a response. Maybe anger. Maybe right away resistance. Not at all what I thought I would get. Keep quiet. She did nothing but stare at me. As she tried to figure out what I had said, I could almost see her thoughts spinning. For a long time, she had been in charge. The one who could say what we were and weren't. That power was no longer there. Her voice was quieter than I thought it would be when she finally spoke. "Do you mean it?" I said yes. In every way. She took a swallow and looked away for a second. "Why now?" I almost laughed out loud at that. "Why now? After everything?" I said, "Because I finally see it. You left this marriage a long time ago, and I should have followed you when you left." She gripped the edge of the table more tightly. "I didn't want this." I leaned back. "Didn't you?" As she shook her head, anger started to rise in her voice. "It was only fair that we were honest about who we were." I never said I was done with it. I let out a sharp breath and shook my head. It was clear. Every day you showed me how you dealt with me. You looked at me like I was just something you had to do. Like I wasn't very important in your life. She clenched her teeth. She was ready to fight. To say it wasn't true. But she couldn't. We were both sure it was. I didn't have to try to reason with her. I wasn't there to show her how valuable I was. It was a waste of time to try to prove myself to someone who already had an opinion about me. Finally, she asked in a whisper, "What about the kids?" That was the most important thing. We figure it out. We are both parents. Just the way you wanted it. Her face showed that she meant to say something else, but for the first time, she didn't know what to say. I got up. I'll begin my search for a home tomorrow. That was it. Not a fight. There will be no emotional goodbyes. The end only. Something hit me as I walked away from the table. I wasn't going to leave because I was hurt. I was going because I felt whole again. Our story is over. Do you want to join our group if you've made it this far? It really helps us a lot. I've picked out 2 more videos that I think you'll enjoy. You are welcome to click on them. I look forward to seeing you in the next story. Have a nice day.